Hello, my friend, and welcome to Something for Everybody. My name is Aaron Machbitz. Today is a solo episode of the podcast where I'm discussing and breaking down 5 powerful quotes on psychology and life, ultimately quotes on living our best, most fulfilling life. So let's jump right in. Quote number 1, success is walking from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm. That's from Winston Churchill. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means that life is going to be filled with setbacks and challenges and obstacles and things that knock you down and things that knock you over and things that are very, very hard and painful. And life is about how you respond to that uncertainty, how you respond to those setbacks, how you respond to those challenges. Because if we fall down 7, we rise 8. That's what it's talking about. And now if you use my definition of failure, which is the refusal to move forward, then you're really moving from obstacle to obstacle to obstacle, and you're not really failing because you're still deciding to move forward. Because failure, again, is the refusal to move forward. So if you fall down and then you get back up, not a failure. If you get knocked down, then you get back up, not a failure. If you face an obstacle, you face a challenge, you face a setback, you have a mistake, boom, boom, boom. All that stuff is going to happen. It's inevitable. But how you respond to that ultimately decides your future. And so ultimately not a failure. I talk about this a lot inside the context of a sporting event. You make one mistake, you strike out, you make one bad play, all of these things. Don't frame it as a failure because you're not a failure and you're not failing. You had one mistake, now it's an obstacle. How do you respond? Because we're still moving forward. So there's not a refusal to move forward. I got this watch, the band keeps, whatever. Anyways, not important. Totally broke my train of thought. So it's not important. It's not helpful, to view it as a failure. And so success, again, my definition is giving our best effort. So for continually day to day, day in and day out, on the most consistent basis, giving our best effort, even through the obstacles, the challenges, the setbacks, the pain, then yes, we're going to have, sometimes some days are going to be harder than others, but like Winston Churchill says, with no loss of enthusiasm about life, your dreams, your vision, your mission, and how you want to move forward and respond to the things that happen to you. Because life is uncertain, that's a promise. And how we respond is really the way forward. And another thing you can do to armor yourself is this idea of voluntary suffering. There is going to be involuntary suffering in life. Involuntary, which means it's not in your control. You didn't choose it. It's uncontrollable. It just happened to you. And that happens to all of us. These are the hard moments, the traumatic, the painful, all of these things. The involuntary suffering. Then we move into the space where it's voluntary suffering, doing things that are hard to armor ourselves for the life ahead, whether that's working out, whether that's doing a martial arts, playing a sport, doing cold baths or hot tubs or whatever the case may be. Hot tubs. Yeah, go into the hot tub. That's great. That's involuntary suffering. Cold tub, sauna, some of these things, just working out, running, bike riding, all of these things that are demanding, and we're voluntarily putting ourselves, voluntarily again is the key word here, putting ourselves in hard positions and doing hard things voluntarily to armor ourselves so that when the involuntary suffering comes, we're better equipped to handle it. Then, as Winston Churchill says, we can move from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm. Quote number 2, this is from C.S. Lewis. You are never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream. This reminds me of the episode I did with Matt Vincent a little bit ago, and his whole mantra and brand is called Not Dead Yet. And that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And it basically explains this C.S. Lewis. If there's still breath in your lungs, if you are still alive, if you're still breathing, still able to move and think, then you're never too old to set another goal or dream a new dream. Don't limit yourself with age. Now, important part about this is actively taking care of ourselves and trying to lengthen our health and lifespan through these really important modalities of eating, sleeping, moving, and thinking right, so that when we do get up in age, we still have a quality of life that we love. And so taking care of ourselves now, doing the basics really well, being brilliant at the basics of eating, moving, sleeping, and thinking, allowing our health and lifespan to extend, then with that, of course, the mantra "not dead yet" falls right in line, because you're not. You still have breath in your lungs. So if you have another goal or another vision or another dream, might as well go for it. Because at some point you are going to be dead. At some point you are going to breathe your last breath, and everything will come to an end in an instant. And you don't want to have your last moments, your last breaths thinking what could have been, with regrets of, man, I should have went for it. Man, I should go for it. There's no other option. Why not? The worst thing that's going to happen is that you don't get where you want to get, or you don't succeed, or you fail, or whatever the term you want to use for. Doesn't matter. You're going to be able to lay your head down in your very last breath and say, yeah, I went for everything I wanted in this life. It was hard, but man, I went for it. And that's really, really cool. That's really cool. So you're never too old. You're never too old to set another goal or dream a new dream. You know why? As Matt Vincent says, you are not dead yet. So go for it all the way the fuck in. See what happens. Something magical will happen. You'll learn something new about yourself. You'll achieve new heights. You'll unlock a best version of yourself. You'll see totally 100% what actually you're capable of, which is much more than you give yourself credit for. These things are powerful, and we're just continually trying to unlock the best version of ourselves on the most consistent basis, because life and we are an endlessly evolving process. That's number 2. Number 3 is from Aristotle. The more you know, the more you realize you know nothing. The smartest people that I know say, I don't know all the time. Say, I don't know all the time. I listen to Tim Ferriss's podcast, one of the most influential podcasters on the planet, sort of got into this space before it became very popular like it is now. I think there's like 4 million podcasts. So thank you for spending your time and attention here with us on Something for Everybody. It doesn't ever go unnoticed. I appreciate you and I love you very much. But he says, I don't know all the time. That's why I like bringing on guests, to learn from them, to say, I don't know, to say, can you please explain that? I didn't get it. Why? Like, I don't know is such a powerful phrase. And we're hearing it less and less often now with social media, where everyone thinks they have to have an opinion on every matter that they ever see. And it's just like, it's not possible to know the really important evidence and information and facts about every issue. Ukraine war in Gaza, Biden's laptop, the presidency, the presidential election, this war, that thing. All of those things are extremely important, but I can't know everything about all of them, which means I don't need to have an opinion on all of those things, which means if someone asks me, or I go on social and someone comments, or whatever the case may be, I can just say, I don't know. Or I haven't done enough research, or I just don't have an opinion on that. The more you know, the more you realize you know nothing. The people who say they know everything or they have the answers to all of these things usually do not. They're trying to mask some sort of inferiority or whatever they think they're less than, or whatever they're feeling psychologically is being projected and portrayed out in real time. But people who are secure and concrete in who they are and authentic with who they are understand they don't know everything, because the world is vast and knowledge is vast, and there's so many different complicated and complex things to understand, that we have the security to say, I don't know. To say, I don't know. That's a powerful statement. I don't know. Could you teach me about that? Oh, you seem to know a lot about that subject. Could you teach me? I'm not really familiar with that. Those are powerful questions. They also create connection. They also create relationships, which, as we know, is the cornerstone of living a great life. And so think about those things, the next time you're on social, the next time you have a conversation with someone, the more you know, the more you realize you know nothing. It's the same thing, who's a great fighter? People who are great fighters and really badass motherfuckers don't go around saying, I can kick everyone's ass. They go around with a calm, cool, collected demeanor. That's why I think what Chris Ortiz talks about with getting Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in schools is a great idea, because it teaches respect. It teaches humility. It teaches respect. Again, a very important one. It also teaches how to handle yourself. It also teaches you how to protect yourself. But when that happens, you understand that you can walk around confident, but not with false confidence. Real confidence is much different than false confidence. Real confidence is intense trust in oneself. This false confidence is on this arrogant side, which is when people talk about how good they are or how badass they are. No one does that when they're really confident and they trust in themselves. They just go about their business and walk through life with their shoulders back and their head up, knowing they are who they are. And that's really important. And that last quote, again, was from Aristotle. We have two more. Then we move into quote number 4 from Aldous Huxley. The most valuable of all education is the ability to make yourself do the thing you have to do when it has to be done, whether you like it or not. This is the idea of discipline. Aldous Huxley was on the Jocko train before Jocko was on the Jocko train, right? Discipline equals freedom. What is discipline? Discipline is doing the thing you know you're supposed to do, whether you feel like it or not. Feelings are important. Emotions matter, but some things just need to get done because we know that they're good for us, especially potentially when we're dealing with something mental health related. Our mental health sometimes will tell us that we don't need to get out of bed, that we don't need to talk to people, that we need to isolate, that we're worthless, that we're not good enough. All of these things that sort of trap us in our own way and keep us stuck in the position we're in. Well, sometimes we need to employ our discipline by having a mental health protocol, a mental health toolkit that we know we go to whenever these feelings start to arise. You can think about it, as an algorithm. If this, then what? If I start to feel a little depressed, if I start to feel a little bit sad, if I start to feel my mental health taking a downward spiral, then I do this. If this, then what, right? So algorithms, so things are automatic. If you start to feel this way, then you move into this. So then we have a protocol and a mental health toolkit that allows us to deploy our discipline, especially when we're feeling our worst, when we definitely 100% need it. So if I start feeling this, or if my mental health is starting to take a downward spiral, then I employ my mental health protocol. Then I go for a walk. Then I take a shower. Then I go to the gym. Then I call a friend, right? If this, then what? So we know that we have this exact plan, exactly when the issue arises, so that we know what needs to be done. I need to do these things because they're part of my mental health toolkit, and this is the protocol that I put in this algorithm. If this, then what? I need to deploy it right now. Oh, but I don't feel like it. That doesn't matter in that moment, because ultimately, if you really think about it, this is what is going to make you feel better, because you've tried these things, you've tested them out, you've experimented with different tools, and now you know that this thing that you've decided to put in your protocol of whether it's moving, sleeping, eating, thinking, whatever the protocol, whatever the specific tool in the protocol is, meditation, journaling, calling a friend, going for a walk, having a great workout, taking a cold shower, whatever it is, you've decided this works for me here, so I'm putting it part of this algorithm, this protocol. If this, then what? And so now I know that discipline can be employed in this moment, even when I don't feel like it. And that rule can be applied throughout your whole life. Again, because the most valuable of all education is the ability to make yourself do the thing you have to do when it has to be done, whether you like it or not. Discipline equals freedom. Doing the thing you know you're supposed to do, whether you feel like it or not, especially 100% of the time when we're feeling our worst. That's when we have to deploy our protocols and stick to our tools as best as possible, because that's when we need them the most. That's when our discipline is most important. So we have to practice and hone that skill when we're feeling okay or really good. So then when we feel our worst or start to feel our worst or start to take a downward spiral, boom, we can employ that discipline. We can employ that if this, then what statement. We can employ that mental health toolkit. Very important, very powerful. Last one, number 5 from Epictetus. No man is free who is not a master of himself. No man is free who is not a master of himself. I say this all the time to my players right before a game when we're meditating and visualizing before the game. If you're not first in control of yourself, you cannot be in control of your performance. And that's the same thing here. If you are not first in control of yourself, you cannot be in control of some of the aspects of your life, which means you have to be a master of yourself, which means you have to know who you are, what you stand for, what your values are, what your first principles are, what your personal philosophy is, what your purpose is. All of these come with experience, come with time, but most importantly, come with thinking about it with time under tension. Time under tension means spending deliberate, intentional time alone to think about the things that are most important to you. What are my first principles? Resilient, kind, zesty, truthful, honest, grateful, consistent. Those are first principles. Those are values. You need somewhere between 3 and 6 because it's how you filter your decisions through. These core values, these first principles lead to your personal philosophy. What is it? I lead with love and empathy. Whatever the case may be, that's mine. And it leads to your massive transformative purpose. Mine is to end mental suffering. What's yours? So it's a 3-layered approach to master yourself and who you want to be and how you want to show up in this world. First, we have to get time under tension. Time under tension means spending time, intentional, deliberate time alone to think about who you are and who you want to be and what your identity is. Remember, your identity is your repeated beingness. So who do you want to be on a consistent basis? Has something to do with your job or your title. Your identity is who you want to be and the values you represent. Great. 3 to 6 core values. Those are your first principles. That's how you filter a lot of your decisions. Does this line up with my core values? No. Yes. Boom. Then from there, you make a personal philosophy statement. From that personal philosophy statement, you come up with a massive transformative purpose. And your personal philosophy and your massive transformative purpose and your core values can change throughout your life, depending on where you are, if you're in this stage of life or that stage of life or whatever. But you need to have these things dialed in because this is how you become a master of yourself. This is how you become the most authentic version of you. So you are free because you know who you are. You can walk into any environment. You don't have to shapeshift or pretend this is who I am. I stand tall with my head up, my shoulders back because my body language is important. It displays my confidence. My confidence is intense trust in myself, and I trust myself because I know who I am. I know who I filter my decisions through. I know what I'm meant to do on this planet, and I know how I want to live my life. That's your personal philosophy. So no man is free who is not a master of himself. You must get dialed in on those things so you can be in control of yourself, which is being in control of the things that we have control over, so we can move through life authentically, genuinely, openly, and honestly. And that's very, very powerful stuff. So those are the 5 quotes that I found just very powerful on life and psychology and just living our most fulfilling, best life. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please share with a friend because that's the absolute best marketing tool that we have on this podcast. Share with a friend, send them the link, do whatever, and hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found some value. What resonated most deeply with you? How can you better your life right here, right now, moving forward with habits that are too small to fail? And I appreciate your time and attention, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers. Thank you very much for tuning into that episode. And if you enjoyed it, click right here for another full-length episode of the podcast. And please don't forget to subscribe. But most importantly, above all else, please take good care of yourselves and others. And I'll see you next time. Lots of love. Cheers.